The compound erupted when Deo's polished SUV swept through the gate, cameras rising before the engine stopped. Minutes later, Kelechi arrived in an old Toyota beside his widowed mother. An aunt leaned toward Amara and murmured, "Your sister married success. You married struggle." Amara tightened her grip on Kelechi's hand. Kelechi heard the remark. He did not challenge it. His eyes moved instead from the aunt to his mother, then to Amara, as if the reactions mattered more than the insult. Amara met his gaze, took one step closer, and walked with him into the celebration without releasing his hand. Deo's arrival had filled the courtyard with branded boxes, photographers, and cousins fighting for the best pictures. Kelechi brought carefully packed family gifts, greeted the elders one by one, and helped his mother settle beneath the canopy. Several relatives barely noticed until Amara deliberately pulled a chair beside them. Then Kelechi's mother presented a modest package wrapped in patterned cloth. She explained quietly that it had belonged to Kelechi's grandmother. Before she finished, Amara's mother signaled a helper. "Put that one on the side," she said. "Keep the main display looking proper." The helper moved it. Kelechi saw his mother's smile hold while her fingers tightened. Amara crossed the courtyard, lifted the package from the side table, and returned it to the center. "Anything given with respect belongs here." Kelechi said nothing, but he remembered who looked embarrassed and who looked annoyed. If you were standing in that courtyard, would you have noticed the price of the gift first, or the way it was given? And where are you listening from today? Before that weekend ended, the family's idea of which sister had chosen wisely would become harder to defend. The ceremony moved on with music, family greetings, elders calling people forward, and relatives drifting between both sisters. Deo was repeatedly pulled toward influential guests. Kelechi stayed mostly with Amara and his mother, answering questions politely whenever someone finally asked what he did. "Civil engineering," he said, because that part was completely true. One uncle asked whether site work was reliable enough for marriage. Kelechi started to answer, but Amara spoke first. "He works hard, plans carefully, and keeps his word. That is the security I care about." Kelechi glanced at her again. Another answer, given before she knew she was being measured. Nneka touched Amara's arm later. "I am not laughing at you," she said. "I just want you comfortable. We watched Mummy struggle after Daddy's business failed. I promised myself I would never build a marriage around uncertainty." Amara understood the fear, even if she disagreed with the conclusion. That evening, Kelechi's mother found him alone near the parked Toyota. "Do not carry today into your home," she warned. Kelechi admitted he had expected status to change people's behavior. "Then learn what you needed to learn," she said. "But do not turn your wife into an examination she never agreed to take." A week later, Amara moved with Kelechi into a comfortable rented house with plain furniture, a narrow veranda, and a kitchen that became unbearably hot by afternoon. There was no hidden mansion behind another gate. Kelechi's simple lifestyle was genuine, and Amara never treated it like a temporary inconvenience. He left early in work boots, faded shirts, and sometimes a dusty helmet. At first, their routines felt ordinary. Then Amara noticed his phone calls. Project managers who sounded older than Kelechi waited for decisions from him, and meetings appeared on his calendar that seemed far beyond the responsibility of a normal site engineer. During dinner one night, Kelechi listened to someone explain a delay, then said, "Do not approve the revised schedule until the cost and safety changes are reviewed together." His tone was calm, but final. When the call ended, Amara raised an eyebrow. "Your site seems to ask permission very politely." Kelechi smiled. "I have more responsibility on this project than most engineers." It was not exactly an answer, and Amara knew it. She did not accuse him. She simply stored the moment beside several others and decided that trusting a person did not require pretending obvious questions did not exist. Meanwhile, Nneka's new life looked like everything she had hoped marriage would provide. Deo booked expensive dinners, posted photographs from polished offices, and moved them into an apartment with a glass balcony overlooking the city. Their mother sent Amara every photograph as if each one were financial evidence. "Neka can breathe," their mother said during one call. "That is what a husband should provide." Amara looked across the room at Kelechi reviewing drawings beside a chipped mug. "I can breathe too, Mummy." She ended the call before another comparison could turn her sister's marriage into a weapon. Neka's first doubt arrived in a parking garage. She found Deo beside the luxury SUV arguing with a man holding paperwork. Later, Deo admitted the vehicle was financed and payments had fallen behind. Neka frowned, but he explained that one delayed property deal had temporarily tightened his cash flow. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. Deo kissed her forehead and said he had not wanted to worry her over something routine. Neka accepted the explanation because financing itself did not frighten her. What stayed with her was how quickly Deo had decided what she was allowed to know. A few days later, Kelechi forgot a folder he needed for a site meeting. Amara offered to bring it because she was already nearby. When she reached the project office, nobody knew she was coming. Through an open doorway, she saw several senior managers gathered around Kelechi while he reviewed a large site plan. An older executive stopped mid-sentence when Kelechi raised one hand. "We reroute access before the next phase," Kelechi said. "I will take responsibility for the delay." Nobody questioned whether he had authority to say it. When he noticed Amara at the door, the surprise on his face told her more than any title could. On the drive home, Amara held the forgotten folder on her lap. "What exactly do you do?" Kelechi kept his eyes on the road. "I work in infrastructure." She waited. "That tells me the industry. I am asking about you." This time, Kelechi did not have an easy answer ready. That evening, he tried to begin dinner as usual. Amara switched off the stove before he could light it. "I stood against my own family because I believed I knew the man I was marrying. Do not make me discover that you were deciding which parts of yourself I had earned." Kelechi said he had never lied about being an engineer. Amara's expression barely changed. "You can hide behind technically true sentences if you want, but I am asking as your wife. Am I your partner, Kelechi, or am I still someone you are watching to see whether I pass?" Before we hear his answer, decide what matters more here, the secret itself or the reason he kept it. Hidden truth can protect someone for a while, but once trust enters the room, secrecy stops being private. It starts affecting the person who never received a choice. Kelechi sat down. "You are right." No defense followed. His late father had built an infrastructure business from small contracting work into a major company, and Kelechi had spent years helping expand its operations. He was an engineer, a major shareholder, and one of the people already making executive decisions. His father's death had started a leadership transition the company planned to announce publicly. Kelechi had kept the company name and ownership private while dating Amara because previous relationships and friendships had changed once people discovered what his family controlled. He wanted one part of his life untouched by that information. "The Toyota is mine. This house is real. I was not pretending to be poor," he said, "but I let people assume I had less influence than I do." Amara folded her arms. "Strangers are one thing. You let your wife live inside the same assumption." Kelechi admitted that the wedding had made his secrecy worse. He had watched who ignored his mother, who moved her gift, who suddenly became warm around Deo, and who remained respectful when there seemed to be no reward. "And you kept passing," he said quietly. Amara's eyes hardened. "I was never supposed to be taking a test." Kelechi nodded. His mother's warning returned with uncomfortable clarity. "No more tests," he said, "and no more technically true answers." Amara did not hug him or declare the problem solved. "Good," she replied. "Then start with the company name, your responsibilities, your finances, and anything else that affects the life we share." They talked late into the night. Trust did not repair itself by morning, but behavior began to change. The next evening, Kelechi placed his upcoming leadership documents on the table before Amara asked. A week later, he invited her into a conversation about travel his new role might require. Secrecy was being replaced by practice. Across town, Nneka found a different pattern. Dayo's promised property deal failed when expected funding disappeared. One evening, she came home and noticed the display case beside their bedroom looked strangely empty. His most expensive watch was gone. Dayo said he had sent it for servicing. Nneka asked for the receipt. He stared at her long enough to answer the question without speaking. The watch had been sold. Then Nneka noticed other absences: a designer bag Dayo had bought for himself, a sound system, 2 pieces of furniture. None mattered individually. Together, they made the apartment feel like a photograph being erased. The real confrontation came when Nneka walked downstairs one morning and found their parking space empty. Dayo finally admitted the SUV had been returned and the apartment payments were also behind. "I can fix this," he insisted. Nneka asked, "How much do we owe?" Dayo could not answer without opening several files. When he finally did, Nneka saw a man who had not been spending for pleasure alone. Dayo had been terrified of looking unsuccessful to investors, relatives, and especially to the woman whose family celebrated him for appearing secure. "I thought if I looked established long enough," he said, "the business would catch up." Nneka's anger softened, but her trust did not. "You were scared, so you made me live inside a performance." She packed one overnight bag and told him she was going to Amara's house. "I am not ending this marriage tonight, but I will not return until you can show me the truth without decorating it." She called Amara from the car. "Please do not say you warned me." Amara answered, "I didn't. Come over." When Nneka arrived, Amara did not ask what happened at the door. She made tea, cleared the spare room, and waited until her sister was ready to speak. Nneka finally whispered, "Mummy is already acting as if she never praised him." Amara shook her head. "Then do not borrow her shame either. Decide what Dayo must do if this marriage is going to continue." Nneka looked toward the hallway. For the first time, her next decision belonged to her. Over the following weeks, Dayo stopped posting luxury photographs and started sending Nneka actual account records. She remained separated while he worked through debts and a smaller living arrangement. Nothing was magically repaired, but truth had finally entered their marriage before another performance could replace it. During the same period, a formal invitation arrived for both families to attend the launch of a major regional infrastructure project. Kelechi told Amara he had arranged their seats because his new public role would be announced there. "I want them present," he said, "but I am not asking you to manage their reaction." Amara appreciated that difference. Months earlier, Kelechi would have planned the moment around what it revealed about everyone else. Now he told her because the event affected their shared life. She asked whether his mother knew. "Since the beginning," he said. Amara laughed once. Of course she did. Launch day looked nothing like the wedding compound. A massive project model stood near the stage while engineers, business guests, officials, and journalists filled the venue. Amara's relatives settled into reserved seats, still assuming Kelechi had secured access because the company valued him as a hard-working project engineer. Amara's mother noticed Kelechi's widowed mother several seats away. For a moment, she seemed ready to look elsewhere. Instead, she walked over and greeted her. The exchange was restrained but respectful. Her eyes briefly dropped to the older woman's hands, and Amara knew exactly which wedding memory had returned. Nneka arrived without Dayo. She looked simpler than she had at the wedding, but steadier than during her first night at Amara's house. "He is meeting a financial advisor today," she said. Amara squeezed her hand. No promises about the marriage followed. For now, honesty was enough progress. The program began with project details and acknowledgments. Then the company chairman stepped forward. He spoke briefly about the next stage of leadership and a man who had spent years working inside difficult projects rather than building his reputation from a distance. Kelechi's mother quietly folded her hands. He helped expand this company beside its founder, led critical operations, and carried responsibilities many people outside these walls never saw, the chairman said. "Today, we formally recognize the role he is already performing." He paused, then announced the name that made Amara's mother stop breathing for a second. Kelechi. Everyone looked toward the stage. Nobody appeared. Then a chair shifted beside the family aisle. Kelechi stood among them in a simple dark suit, buttoned his jacket, touched his mother's shoulder, and walked forward. The man they had once barely welcomed was not being summoned from the staff section. He had been sitting with them. The aunt who had called him struggle lowered her eyes. The uncle who questioned whether engineering could support a family stared at the stage. Amara's mother looked toward Kelechi's mother instead. The company title shocked her, but the woman she had embarrassed at the wedding was where the shame finally landed. Kelechi accepted the microphone and kept his remarks focused on the project, the people building it, the communities it would serve, and the responsibility attached to leading work that had consequences beyond photographs and opening ceremonies. He did not mention a single insult from the wedding. Then he paused. "There is someone I want beside me before I finish." He looked at Amara. She hesitated only because hundreds of eyes turned with his. Nneka squeezed her hand, and Amara walked to the stage. Kelechi waited until she stood beside him before speaking again. "She chose a life with me before she knew this title was part of it," Kelechi said. "That choice deserves more respect than anything I could say about myself." He handed her the microphone and stepped slightly aside, giving her the moment instead of using her as proof of his own character. Amara looked at him, then at both families. "I need to say one thing before this becomes the wrong story. I did not choose Kelechi because he was secretly wealthy. I did not know. And if he were still only the engineer everyone thought he was, I would still have married him." After the event, relatives crowded around Kelechi with congratulations far warmer than their wedding welcome. He received them politely, but did not make anyone perform regret in public. Amara's mother did not join the circle. She walked instead toward Kelechi's mother, who had taken a quiet seat near the project display. "At the wedding, I moved your gift because I thought its price made it less worthy," Amara's mother said. "I embarrassed you in front of your family. I was wrong, and I am sorry." Kelechi's mother remained silent long enough that the apology could not become an easy escape. Then she placed her hand over Amara's mother's hand. That was all. No speech about forgiveness followed, and none was needed. Across the room, Amara saw her mother remain seated beside the woman she had once pushed to the edge of the celebration. A few days later, Amara and Kelechi ate breakfast at the same small table where their hardest conversation had begun. His leadership papers sat openly beside his coffee. Amara tapped them and asked, "Anything important in my life hiding in one of these?" Kelechi smiled. "Not anymore. If Amara's choice stayed with you, share this story with someone who believes appearances can tell them everything. Like and subscribe for more stories where one decision changes how an entire family sees the truth. And tell me this: when did you realize Amara had already chosen well?